Three-time NBA champion LeBron James has agreed to a 4-year contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. His agency said Sunday night. LeBron, a native of Akron, Cleveland, led the Cleveland Cavaliers to a historic championship 2 years ago, but has since lost twice in the finals to the Golden State Warriors. He has recently been reported to be frustrated with the Cavaliers being unable to bring in other big stars who will help him win another championship. With this signing, the Lakers, who were one of the worst teams in the league last season, are immediately becoming one of the strongest contenders to win another NBA title. And joining me here in the studio is sports expert Terry Deghani. Terry, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
The Lakers now seriously becoming one of the strongest contenders, and as it seems, this is something LeBron James had in mind for quite some time. He gave hints about moving to Los Angeles, didn't say whether it's Lakers or Clippers, but this is something he had cooking in his mind for a while now.
It's interesting. I would agree with that. Some of the signs include having his kids go to a school in LA. But it's going to be interesting. I think the off-season really begins now. Other teams are looking to see what he was doing first, and now we're probably going to see a few more moves around him.
You mentioned other teams, other players, and we saw this past season that LeBron James cannot do it by himself. The Cavaliers were swept by the Warriors in the finals. They almost lost to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then comes the question, who will join him? It will not be Chris Paul. It will not be Paul George. They're already signed with their teams. Who may it be?
I think the favourite has to be Kawhi Leonard. He's expressed his intentions to move to LA, and given that he has a year remaining on his contract, the Spurs have a little bit of leverage. But having said that, he wants to leave, and so they either get something for him now in a trade package, or he leaves at the end of next season and they lose him for nothing.
And another interesting question, the West has been considerably stronger than the East in the past few years, and that is now even changing even more with the biggest star the East had for years moving to the West. We have Houston, we have Oklahoma, we have the Lakers. That is going to be one very, very big conference there. Whoever wins the West will most probably be the champion, as it seems.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got Boston in the East, who are now probably have a bit of an easier run. Philadelphia are coming up in the East.
Yeah, they lost to LeBron James twice nearly this year. It was very close.
Absolutely. And as you said, the West, all of a sudden you add this new dynamic of LeBron. It's a seismic shift, and it's going to create a pretty intense playoff series, that's for sure.
And now we're recording this. Will the Lakers be the champions this coming season?
I can't say that. I think Golden State are still the favourites until they're knocked off. LeBron needs to learn how to play with his new players. I still need to see who else they're going to add before I could say that they're going to be champions.
Terry Deghani, you're staying with us in the studio for our next issue, and that is, of course, the World Cup. 2010 World Cup champions Spain were one of the biggest favorites to win the title again, but it will not happen this time. La Roja lost in penalties to the Russian hosts after the game ended in a 1-1 draw after 120 minutes. The Spaniards took an early lead through an own goal, and things seemed to be going their way, but Russia equalized on a penalty just before halftime. Spain then had almost all the possession as they pressed forward, just could not get past the Russian defense before losing the penalty shootout. The Russians will now face Croatia in the quarterfinals on Saturday. The Croats beating Denmark, also in a penalty shootout. The score was 1-1 as early as the 4th minute, but no more goals were scored for the next 116 minutes before Croatia won the shootout. 2 more round of 16 games will be held today. Brazil will face Mexico in the early game, and later on, Belgium will take on Japan. Terry Deghani, major surprise, the Russians taking on Spain. Spain with more than 1,000 passes. The only thing is, passing is very good, but that by itself does not score goals.
Well, you're right, and Spain are entering this transition phase where they've had this tiki-taka game style for many years now, and you could argue that it's maybe getting a little bit outdated. Combine that with the fact that Russia were very, very solid, and once they got their equalising goal, they really parked the bus a little bit, played a very strong defensive game style, and just really needed to get to penalties, knowing that they had the crowd behind them and the momentum.
And an interesting quarterfinal coming up, Croatia against Russia. The Croats, of course, very, very impressive in the first round, that big win against Argentina, winning all of their games. But playing a World Cup host is never easy. Ask the Spaniards all about that.
Absolutely. Like I said, the momentum, the crowd, the energy that the crowd gives them. You could even see throughout stages of that game, the Russian bench players were calling on their fans to get up and make noise. And you could tell that it maybe spooked the Spaniards, and it's going to be interesting to see if the same effect happens on the Croatians.
And one final note, we've seen some of the favorites already go home, whether it's Germany, Argentina, Spain, maybe even Portugal. Brazil are playing today. Well, what's that going to look like?
I think Brazil will go through. I think we've had enough of the upsets. But I think England are a sneaky chance to make it through. I think their confidence is building, and obviously being an English side, there's always that little added pressure. But I think they're in a good spot.
The question is if England making it is a surprise or not. Our English colleagues may be angry for what I'm saying. Terry Deghani,